Hey, Grant Nelson for Thief River Falls Radio News with Mark Borseth, Public Works Director for the City of Thief River Falls. First off, Mark, this has been an unprecedented era of construction in Thief River Falls, has it not?
Yeah, it certainly has. I mean, there's been a lot of activity here for several years, but of course a lot since the DigiKey expansion. That's all some related to that, and a lot of it is because of that there's some great funding opportunities and some real strategic partnerships with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, Pennington County, Red Lake Watershed District, and the City of Thief River.
Now, there's 10 projects going on right now that several different agencies have come together to make happen. But the City of Thief River, let's start off with finishing up 2019. You're doing some work downtown. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So 2019, we had a fairly large-sized project that had, it had a little bit of work scattered all over the city. There was a water main loop on Highway 59 Southeast. There was some other paving work that took place around the city, but the bulk of the project was the downtown reconstruction. And that was 1st Street from Pennington to Knight Avenue, 2nd Street from Horace to Knight, 4th Street from Atlantic to Highway 32, and Labrie Avenue and 4th Street Labrie Avenue and Horace Avenue from 1st Street to 4th Street. So those are all municipal state aid streets. They were, the last time they were reconstructed was 1994. All the utilities were replaced in 1994. So this project was more about the pavement, the sidewalks, the ADA ramps, and decorative lighting. So that project, a couple of the biggest changes. Labrie Avenue from 1st to 4th was one of the bigger changes, and where we narrowed the street a little bit, and that was basically done because of when it was built in '94, it was built to the width it was 57 feet wide, so it could handle diagonal parking on one side. And the city council was really not in favor of the diagonal parking on that section. So it's kind of a busier street, and it forced the sidewalks to be so narrow. And the problem that we had to resolve last year in the reconstruct was to bring the sidewalks into ADA compliance. So we had cross slopes on the sidewalks that were as high as 7% or higher, and the standard is 2%. Right. So by widening the sidewalks, narrowing the street slightly, we were able to correct those deficiencies in the cross slope and make it a safe, pedestrian-friendly kind of atmosphere is what the goal was. And I think that's hopefully working out well for people. The other one that was changed a lot was 4th Street, and that road was 60 feet wide, which was really, really wide and not real necessary. There was accident history on 4th and Labrie and some on 4th and Horace, so we thought that we would make that street a more reasonable width for the traffic that was there, and then we put 4-way stops in at 4th Labrie and 4th and Horace, and to make those a little bit safer. And then we're tried the back-end diagonal parking on a block and a half there as well, and that. The diagonal parking request had came through a downtown study that was a visioning study that was done by the University of Minnesota that had a lot of diagonal parking downtown in places where it really wouldn't have worked out. But I think the business community wanted to have some additional parking, and this was a way on a road where it seemed to make sense. We had the sidewalk width where we could do it without making it unsafe, and so that added about 12 parking stalls downtown.
Plus, I think it made 4th Street seem much more like part of downtown, didn't it?
Exactly, and that was kind of the goal.
Off of that, let's talk about painting, doing striping next week a little bit in the downtown area.
Sure. So the pavement markings are going to be ground epoxy, so they'll actually mill a slightly recess below the surface before they spray an epoxy, and then it's much more durable and doesn't get the wear from motor graders and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's going to happen, scheduled for next Monday. And that would be 1st Street, which would be as much needed. We did temporary seasonal striping on it last fall, but it was pretty much gone by this spring. And that one with the lanes, it's very challenging. So we're anxious to get it done. We're anxious to get the more vibrant parking lines on 4th Street. And then also throughout the downtown on those same streets we worked on, where we used to have a perpendicular line to the curb to define parking stalls, now we're going to use a T out in the street that's a little more visible from the driver's seat.
Force mains are being buried basically in the bottom of the ditch of Greenwood Street, and then they go out to the lagoon. And can you tell us what the purpose of the force main was? Was it to handle future expansion, or was it to give us a backup, or to just handle what's already there in a better way? Or
there's a force main that goes from a lift station that was built in 2015, I believe it was, by Sanford, that serves the Sanford Hospital, and it'll serve probably 500 or 600 acres of growth in that area. That force main is direct to the wastewater ponds along the County 16. A portion of that has to be relocated because of the new west side diversion ditch. So there's a little bit of force main work going on in that project. There's a 20-inch force main that handles the majority of all the sewage from the city, and that goes along the north side of Greenwood Street from lift station number 9 by the historical village. And they've experienced some problems with that pipe deteriorating. So Wayne had pursued not replacing that, but putting in another parallel 20-inch, and then he's going to save the old one as a backup. So if there needs to be any repairs done, there's the ability to use that one. So
okay, I've noticed along the bypass ditch and the Veterans Memorial Highway, because there is some continuity between those two. It seems like there's more development, or at least more potential for development. Is that going to be like a business or residential development out in that area?
So all the way along County 16, there's some different scenarios. So starting at the south end by Highway 32, well, first, everything on the west side is out of the city limits. We still address it in our comprehensive plan, and there's utilities in place that could help serve that. But on the east side of 16, starting on the south end, there's, I believe it's 129 acres there that's zoned either commercial along the highway and then multifamily behind it. Some of the utilities are in place to serve that. There's obviously a lot of extensions that got to happen as it develops. But that's in the city limits. It is platted, so that's prime for development. Then there's an 80-acre parcel north of that that's south of the city's industrial park that's out of the city limits, and that would probably be the last area to develop just for the gravity sewer. We would need another lift station to take care of that. Then there's the industrial park, which is now serves as property available for industrial uses there, and the most recent one is Garden Valley Telephone Company building a small data center and a future shop there. Okay. Then north of that, of course, is DigiKey, and then there's about 68 acres between Technology Street and First Street on the east side of County 16. And that one was part of the NOPR development that the city master planned starting in 2012. And that one will likely be primarily multifamily residential, but there's a possibility for some pretty exciting commercial things along the highway as well.
Okay. Well, Thief River Falls is looking pretty good.
It is, it's unbelievable the amount of things that are happening here. And, a lot of the things that are happening, the west side diversion, the Highway 1 West MnDOT project, those projects are very much tied together. And as well as the county projects, the two roundabouts and bridge that they're building, a lot of these things are happening because they're needed from the DigiKey growth and the additional people that we're anticipating. But they're also preparing, for the future as well. So there's just a lot of just great funding opportunities that have came out of these partnerships between all these entities.
And without the good partnerships and without the ability to work together, probably wouldn't be able to get done. So I think that's been fantastic that everybody's been able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the key ones, the Highway 1 West MnDOT and the west side diversion, that drainage historically came from the northwest of town into the city along Highway 1 by Northern Motors and RV Sports, and then south along Barzan Avenue to Greenwood, and then north side of Greenwood to the river. And, that's all being moved now out to the west side of County 16, out of the city limits. And it's, that was critical in the MnDOT Highway 1 reconstruction, because had that not came together at the right time, that project would have had to have utilized the existing system, and it would have been almost impossible to move it at a later date. So it was really all about timing, and so that one should work out well. The other part of the west side diversion that's going to be pretty neat that the city is doing through that project is putting storm sewer in that Barzan Avenue ditch all the way from 6th Street to Greenwood Street. That'll be filled in. And then also the ditch along the north side of Greenwood Street from Barzan to Oakland Park Road. That ditch will for the most part disappear as well.
Yeah, they'll urbanize it.
It's going to be a lot nicer.
Sure will. Mark, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Mark Borseth, City of Thief River Falls, and I'm Grant Nelson for Thief River Falls Radio News.